Recorded Books presents The Questions That Matter Most, Reading, Writing, and the Exercise of Freedom by Jane Smiley, narrated by the author.
Introduction. When I moved to California in 1996, I was following a horse. The horse's name was Turson. I called him Mr. T. I bought him from a stable in Wisconsin in 1993 and kept him in a barn outside Ames, Iowa, where I taught at Iowa State. But I was tired of nearly freezing to death when I rode him in the winter. And by the way, my husband Steve, who had grown up in Iowa, had spent some time in Santa Barbara and wanted to move back. Eventually, Steve and Mr. T agreed on Carmel Valley, California. I could have said I was the native Californian because I was born in L.A., and my parents lived near Hollywood Park until I was about a year old, then moved back to the Midwest. Steve was born in Iowa, Mr. T in Germany. But no matter. Like all migrants to California, we looked around and fell in love instantly with the new landscape and the ever-changing but almost always pleasant weather. At the time, I was known for 1,000 Acres and Moo, one of them openly set in Iowa and the other one sort of set in Iowa at a land-grant university. The first thing I did, inspired by Mr. T, was decide that, of course, I could breed racehorses. And I did, though none of them were successful. But Mr. T and the horses I bred gave birth to Horse Heaven. And in order to understand racing and breeding, I took a wonderful tour of California, Del Mar, Santa Anita, Hollywood Park, Golden Gate Fields, Temecula, Coalinga, and Davis, with many stops in between, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, San Diego. The first thing I learned about California was how beautiful it is. The second thing I learned was that the climate and the scenery change every time you turn a corner or go over a mountain. I experienced this just the other day when I was walking in Monterey, and I left the Del Monte Shopping Center for Don Davie Park. I saw a path that I had never taken before, and it took me straight into the woods along a creek, natural, chaotic, and messy, not half a mile from the designer handbags at Macy's. Before I came to California, the only California writer I knew much about was John Steinbeck from Salinas, who, judging by his works, was interested not only in the social world and the history of his native land, but also in the landscape. In my favorite of his novels, East of Eden, he begins by describing the diversity of the Salinas Valley, the lupins and the poppies, the trees and the Spanish moss, the changing nature of the soil, and the danger and beauty of the Salinas River. All of his works take on economic and political themes, too, obviously in The Grapes of Wrath and Of Mice and Men. But one of the things you can't help doing if you are a writer based in California is attempting to convey what it feels like to be here, moment by moment. My family had one small connection to California. One of my grandfather's many older sisters ended up in Vallejo, married to an astronomer who was a true crackpot, and who was also from central Missouri. His name was Thomas Jefferson Jackson C., and he earned his stripes as a crackpot by ruthlessly opposing Einstein's theory of relativity until the day he died, convinced that the universe was made of ether. He worked for the U.S. Navy and was sent to Mare Island to use astronomy to tell the exact time of day and to let the captains of the ships know so that they could embark on their missions in the proper way. And so I went to Vallejo and Mare Island to look around gathering the information I needed.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?